Hi, everyone, and welcome to Scooping for Scandal. Go ahead, relax, dim the lights, and whatever you do, don't look behind you. Today, we're diving deep into some of the creepiest story times from TikTok.
Imagine finding out that your aunt is a demon from hell. I am back with another spooky story. We're gonna call the person who submitted the story Perry. Perry said that she submitted this story because she really wants to spread awareness. Okay, so Perry is the type of person who receives visions. She says that most people receive visions from heaven only or hell only, but she gets them from both. She says she had visions of Jesus telling her what to do, and even having conversations with him and also with demons and the devil. Perry says for some reason when it's with Jesus, she's never seen his face clearly, but she says that the way Revelations describes him is exactly how he is. But she sees demons clearly and their messages are always misleading. So one day, as she's randomly preparing for bed, her aunt walks into her room randomly and looks deep into her soul and says, "Life only gets worse." Perry didn't think much about it, she just prayed and went to sleep. Well, that very night, Perry had a vision. She says her visions never really involve her family members, but this time it did. In her dream, she was in her mom's room, which, by the way, she was sleeping in because her room had a problem. The vision was basically her entering her mom's room right after her aunt said that life only gets worse. She saw several heads and creepy things that kept repeating, "Life only gets worse." Which made sense because as she was walking into the room before she fell asleep, she heard whispering, but she just couldn't make out what it was saying. But in her vision, she can hear them very clearly, repeating what her aunt had told her. So she immediately woke up and started looking around. And out of the blue, her aunt was in the window just staring right at her. She said, "I never screamed like that my whole life." Everyone woke up, came to her, and asked her, like, what is going on? But she was so traumatized she couldn't even talk about it. She definitely didn't want to stay in that house anymore. So her mom suggested maybe she should just go spend the night at her boyfriend's place. She loved that idea, she couldn't agree more. When she arrived at her boyfriend's place, she felt comforted and at ease, and she immediately fell asleep. She woke up in the morning feeling refreshed and more at ease. Stay with me now. After freshening up, she went to go eat breakfast with her boyfriend. At the table, he asked her why she didn't want to stay at her family's house anymore. After explaining to him the entire story, he honestly wasn't shocked. He said one time his friend went to learn about demons from a demon with him. So they went to go learn about demons from a demon himself. And he said that the demon, for some reason, the boyfriend is telling her that this demon wanted to see a picture of him and his entire family. So he showed the demon a picture. So Perry happened to be in that picture that the boyfriend showed the demon. And immediately he showed interest in Perry. The demon requested to see Perry's entire family. So her boyfriend, who has many pictures of Perry's family, just showed it to the demon. The demon then asked her boyfriend if Perry's entire family were demons too. To which the boyfriend replies to the demon saying, "Nah, fam. My girlfriend and her whole entire family are in fact religious. Like religiously strong, and they're Catholics." Then the demon pointed at her aunt and said that whenever demons gather up, she's always there. And after that day at the table, he never brought up that story again. So Perry was so in shock after her boyfriend told her that story and felt the need to learn more about it. So she went to her aunt's old house, and the minute she got there, she just felt chills like just going down her spine. She said she saw several cult pictures and demonic symbols around the entire house. And yes, it was her first time in that house. As Perry and her boyfriend are exploring her aunt's house that they just broke into, out of nowhere, as if she is everywhere, the aunt appears and kicks them out. And mind you, before she appeared to kick them out, they looked all over the house. There was no one home. As they were there, they didn't hear the front door open, nothing. So where did this lady come from? She and her boyfriend leaves and heads to her house. And to her surprise, when she gets to her mother's house, who is standing right there at the front door, it is no other than her aunt. Perry was like, "Is she seriously everywhere I go?" Her boyfriend was genuinely surprised. She told her parents to call a priest, however, her parents didn't think that was necessary. What they discovered about the aunt when the priest got there was truly horrifying. Now I know you guys hate part twos, I know. And sometimes I leave y'all hanging, but not this time. I'm going to drop the part two. Make sure you leave a comment. Oh, and follow me on Instagram. Thank you. All right, y'all. I'll see you guys in part two. Part 2. See how I didn't leave y'all hanging this time? Very mindful, very demure. So Perry was super persistent to her parents about seeing a priest. The parents, although they really didn't think it was necessary, they finally caved in because Perry would not let up. So as they were setting up the place on the day that the priest was supposed to come, she could just hear her aunt, but she can't see her. She said that the aunt knew the reason why she wanted to set up this prayer so bad. It's because of the vision that Perry had had about her and the things that she saw in the house. Although she's hearing her aunt in her ears, she just ignores her. The moment the priest stepped foot in that house, he didn't even want to look at the rest of the family. The aunt pops up and everyone is just glued on her. Everyone is staring at the aunt, she's staring back at them, and the air is tense. The priest said, "She's not who you think she is," and that the actual aunt was currently burning in hell. Not H-E double hockey stick. Everyone was shocked. I'm Hannah Montana. Sorry. As soon as the priest said that, Auntie disappears. And they hear a very long, loud shriek in the air saying, "I'll be back." The priest started praying, but Perry couldn't focus. All she kept thinking about was, where did she go? After the cleansing and purifica ceremony, sorry if I butchered that, but after the purifica ceremony, the priest came to Perry and told her that the aunt went back to where she came from. And that very night, while she and her boyfriend were sleeping, she was having visions of her actual aunt burning in H-E double hockey stick. Since that day moving forward, from all the trauma and everything, Perry now slowly started to recover. But one day, Perry just felt like she missed her aunt so much. So she decided to look at their old pictures together. And in all those pictures, she wasn't even there. Even the picture that was taken of them while they were on vacation together, just the two of them, it was just Perry in the picture. She wasn't in anything. There was no pictures of the aunt. So she went to the priest, and the priest said that everything of hers is erased, and she wasn't allowed to be remembered through physical things anymore. Bro? Perry was like, damn. So she went to the aunt's house, and the owner said that the house was never owned by anyone, and once her and her boyfriend got to the house, it was completely empty. No traces of her aunt, nowhere. So she decided to just forget about her and just move on with her life like normal. Her and her boyfriend got married last week, so their lives are going pretty well. Well, congratulations, girl. Perry says, anyways, this is my life experience that honestly has me shaking every time I think about it. But I decided to open up to someone I don't even know personally, so this load on my chest is dropped off. I want to spread the awareness of being aware of those around you and to be religiously strong. If I ever go through anything again, I won't even think twice but to come to your email and tell you. Anyways, I love you. Love you too, girl. Bye. This one was spooky, and Perry did not tell me where they're from. I don't know why I'm getting Nigeria vibes from this, but I feel like this is either a Nigerian or a South African spooky story. But then it could also be Haiti. I don't know, but you guys let me know what you think it is in the comments below. What you thought about the story was the craziest part. As I've stated in my previous videos, it's begging at this point, please. Just go follow me on Instagram so I can reach 10K. We don't know what's gonna happen to this app. Y'all getting a little too comfortable. And of course, my YouTube channel for longer, better, and spookier stories. We're almost at 40K. Get on it. Like I say in every video, I love you, my abducted humans, from your favorite Haitian homegirl.
The story that I'm gonna tell you, honestly, it like creeps the fuck out of me still when I think about it. So, growing up, I mean, I didn't really grow up with my grandparents. We would go visit them, like when we went to Mexico and stuff, and on vacation. And I remember like really spending a lot of time with my mom's mom, but with my dad's mom, we hardly like ever spent time. And I remember my mom always being so cautious, like, be careful what you eat when you go to your grandma's house. Don't get everything. But for some reason, my grandma had like a really, really like strong connection with me, I guess. I remember her always telling me like, oh, you look so much like your dad. But she would always kind of single my little sister out, like, oh, but you know, your sister looks like your mom so much. And I remember she would like grab my face and be like, oh, you're so beautiful. You know, you look just like my son. And so, I mean, me and my sister would joke around about it, like, oh, you're the favorite one, but I never really took it like, eh. It was like, whatever. So I used to work in a warehouse when my oldest daughter she was like a year and a half. And I had found out that just recently, like I remember when I was working, I found out that then I was pregnant with my son. So I remember working graveyard shift, and I remember not telling anybody because I work with mostly guys. And I'm like, they don't need to know about my business or whatever. And I must have been like a month pregnant. So I remember getting off of work, and I felt so uneasy, you know, like I had a feeling, I don't know, like something bad was going to happen. And I remember I couldn't sleep. But before I even went to go lay down, I remember like looking at the end of the hallway, like I get there, right? And I'm going to go to my room, but the hallway was so dark. And I remember like I was about to turn on the light, and I stayed looking at the end of the hallway. And I remember seeing this really dark, like a human figure, right? And I got so like tripped the fuck out. I was like, what the fuck is that? And I turn on the light, and there's nothing there. So then I try to go to sleep or whatever. And mind you, I must have slept for like 2 hours. And then I had this sudden urge to like call my mom. So I remember I called my mom, and I was like, hey mom, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm so glad you called. I'm like, what happened? And she's like, your grandma just passed away. And I remember I was like, what the fuck? And I told my mom what had happened, you know, how I had seen that figure at the end of the hallway. And my mom jokingly was like, oh, she probably want to say goodbye to you. You know, she probably, you know, Dios su despedida, like said her goodbyes. And it kind of stuck with me, right? So mind you, remember I work graveyard at this warehouse. And so I remember walking into HR office, and I wish I could see this girl. I wish I could reach out to her, or she could reach out to me if she ever were to see my videos. I remember walking into the HR, and she's like, hey, like try to approach me. She's like, can I tell you something? But I don't want you to feel uncomfortable what I'm going to tell you. And I'm thinking in my head, what the fuck is she going to tell me? You know? And I remember she's like, oh, it like terrifies me when I think about it, because everything that happened after was so fucking scary. I remember her like telling me, you know, it's gonna sound awkward, blah blah. Cut the story short, she's like, somebody walked in with you. And I'm like, the fuck? I walked in by myself, you know? She's like, no, it was an older lady that just passed away. And I remember looking at her like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she's like, starts describing my grandma to me. When she told me this, I felt like my heart dropped, you know? I'm like, how the fuck does she know? And so she tells me that, and then she's like, but she can't rest. Like, she needs to tell you something. And I'm like, tell me what? Like, you can't tell me? You know? And she's like, no, like, your grandma needs to tell you. And I remember I was like, no, like, I don't want her to come to me. Like, how is she gonna come to me in a dream? Like, I was starting to trip. Because, mind you, when my grandma passed away, the way I remember her, like, no, I was so terrified, honestly, when she passed away. Like, I didn't want her to come back to me like that. She was very old already when she passed away, but her skin was so fragile. Like, if you picked her up, like, literally her skin would rip wherever she was, like, picked up from. So she's like, she's gonna come to you, blah blah. And I'm like telling her, like, no, like pleading, like, no, I don't want her to come to me. Like, I sound like a crazy person. And so she's like, but she's not coming to you right now, you know? And she's like, when you have your son. When she told me that, I was already tripping, you know? This just like threw me overboard, right? And so she's like, yeah, when you have your son. I hadn't told anybody I was pregnant, let alone I didn't even know what I was having. So I remember every night, like, praying to God, like, please don't let her come to me. Please, I'm terrified of her. Like, I don't want her to come. God, like, I would pray for her every night. Like, I was literally terrified of her. And the day comes where I have my son, right? So I'm continuing to pray every night for her, like, lighting candles for her. And I'm like, please don't come. Please don't ever come. I don't care what you did. Like, I don't want to know what you have to tell me. Like, why are you choosing me? Like, choose somebody else. Like, and I remember telling the same girl that told me that, I'm like, can she choose somebody else? Like, and she's like, no, because she knows you're strong and you're going to be able to handle what she's going to tell you. And that stuck in my head, and I remember just like losing it, to be honest. And I don't know, I felt like so uncomfortable my whole pregnancy because I just was waiting for her to arrive. So I ended up having my son, and at that time my daughter had her own room, but she would sleep in a little toddler bed in my room. So the toddler bed was right next to my bed, and I remember like breastfeeding my son. tell me why. This is when I think about it, it's so terrifying, to be honest. Like, I really hope she doesn't ever come back. Because my daughter's sitting in her toddler bed, and she kind of like sits up, and she's like not fully awake, right? So she's sitting up, and her eyes, they're like not open, but she's like, I don't know if she's trying to open them or rolling back, but I'm tripping the fuck out. I see her sit up, and then she's like, "Kukui, kukui." Bitch. Kukui? You know, I'm like, kukui, and I'm like calling her name, like, wake up, wake up. But let me give you a little background. When my daughter, when I was changing my daughter's diaper, right, we had a picture of my grandma in a spare room at my mom's house. And I remember how she like looked up at the picture, and she was like, kukui, kukui, pointing at my grandma's picture. And I'm like, kukui? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, kukui is like something scary, right, in Spanish. And I'm like, telling like my mom, come here, look what she's saying. And mom's like, what the fuck? Like, why would she say that? So when my daughter sat up in the bed and she was saying that, in my heart, I knew it was my grandma. And I was like, I can't do anything for you, you know, like, I'm not the person. But it made me so angry to think that she was like going after my daughter. So I like start cussing a storm, you know, and like, get the fuck out of my fucking room, blah blah. Like, my mom has always told me, like, if you see something, a spirit, like, you're supposed to curse it, right? Curse at it, and supposedly it leaves. I don't know if it's true, but it worked. Like, when I said that, like, I remember as I was saying it, I could see my daughter's eyes, like her whole, like her eyes, her head, everything started turning like to the side. Oh my god, it's so fucking scary when I think about it. It started like turning and turning, like as if it's like watching this thing walk out of the room. I literally fucking died in that second. And I'm like, I start tripping the fuck out, you know? And I'm like, you know, calling my daughter's name. I'm like, wake up, you know, wake up. Mind you, she's like 2 now. And I'm like literally so pissed off. And like I start crying, and I'm like holding my daughter, and I'm like holding my son, you know? And I'm like, why would you come? I was more pissed off at that. I'm like, why would you come and scare my daughter? Or like, I felt like she was being selfish, even though it was like her afterlife. Because after my grandma passed, like a lot of things surfaced about things that she did, like while she was alive. Like that she was to like black magic, and she did a lot of things to people that she shouldn't have done. You know, my mom being one of them. So, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking like, dude, she fucking did something really bad, and she wants me to go, you know, take care of it for her. Like, no. After that, I had one more encounter happen, but when that happened, I would start dreaming of her, but I never would see her face, you know? Like, my dreams were always, I know it was her, because that same scary feeling that I got when I felt that thing come into that room that night, I would wake up literally screaming, terrified from these nightmares I would have of her. Yeah, they're not even dreams, they're nightmares. Where she would just be sitting in this black room. Not black, she would be all black. This dark room. And she would kind of cackle, like laughing at me. And when I would wake up, I would be so fucking terrified. You know, I'm like, I know, I'm sorry, I know it was my grandma, but whatever she did, I know it must have been something really bad. But I like ask God for her to never come to me. Like, I prayed so much, I pray for her soul. But it's just when I have those dreams of her, and I haven't, like, honestly, I would have them so, like, one after another. But now it's been like, it's been like a year that I haven't dreamed of her. And like, honestly, before I go to sleep, I always like try to pray and like pray that nothing ever comes, you know? Or nothing ever, I think it's a cricket, or nothing ever like, or she just doesn't ever come back or try to haunt us, to be honest. Because I have a feeling that whatever she needed to tell me was something really bad. And I know that girl told me that I would be able to withstand what she was going to tell me. But something tells me it was just terrifying. Like I said, I would love to find that girl, you know, that used to work in HR. And just like I have so many questions for her. But yeah, that was one of my experiences with the ghost. I mean, I've had plenty of experiences, but this one is one that literally traumatized me. And within the years as my daughter got older, like, I learned that she too would see things, you know, or she would feel things. Like when I dream of her, when I dream of my grandma, or when I dream of her, my daughter dreams of her. And my daughter's so terrified, and, you know, my daughter will wake up and she'll be like, Mom, like, she's so scary, like, the way she comes in my dream. But I think I get afraid sometimes, thinking, like, if she didn't get through to me, will she try to get through to my daughter?
I don't care if it's still August, school is officially over, therefore it is spooky season, so I'm gonna tell you a spooky story. This is true, and this happened to me. So you're gonna need a little bit of context before I jump right into the story. My grandparents on my mother's side live out in the country in Oklahoma. When I was younger, we would go out there and visit them frequently, at least once a year. This particular time, we're going to visit them. I can't remember exactly how old I was. I want to say I was like 10. Somewhere between the ages of like 8 and 11. So we go up there for a small family, like close family reunion type of thing. I should also mention that this house is old. If that wasn't already obvious, this house is old. It's old as my grandparents. It's older than them. So at this reunion, everyone's outside. They're grilling, barbecuing, sitting, chit-chatting, talking, whatever. It was starting to get a little bit chilly, so I was like, I'm gonna go inside and get a jacket and I'll be right back. So I run inside. Mind you, nobody else is inside the house. Everybody's outside getting their barbecue on, okay? I run inside up the stairs to my room to grab a jacket. In this room, there's the closet, and then next to the closet right here is a little door for a crawl space. I grab my jacket, I turn around. The crawl space is open. The door is cracked open. I'm like, oh, okay, let me just go and close that really quick. I go over, I open it a little bit because I'm like, what's in there? Not expecting there to be anything in there. I open it, and there's a staircase. A long staircase going up. So what does 10-year-old me do? I go up the staircase. Something was just speaking to me, telling me that this door was open for a reason and that I'm supposed to go up in here. So I get to the top, there's another door. I open the door into this grand hallway. It's like white and gold marble columns, but it's a long hallway. And there's a bunch of doors going down, and then another door at the very end. Immediately, I'm like, what is this? Where am I? And a little freaked out, obviously. Something was calling me to go to the door at the very end of the hallway. Forget all the other doors, go to the one at the end of the hallway. So I start walking down this very long hallway. And all of these doors are shut, right? And then I feel like something's watching me. I look and I see further down the hallway, one of these doors on the left side, an old woman, a very creepy old woman, is peeking her head out of the door and watching me. And then I would see her pop out of a different door and be looking at me, and then a different door and then be looking at me as I kept progressing down the hallway. Finally, I reached the end of the hallway to the door at the end, and I was so compelled to open it. So I opened it, and I left the door open. When I entered the room, I left the door open, okay? And it's a complete change of environment. The hallway was white and gold, marble columns, like very clean, very, I don't know, elegant. Walk into this room, it's like your basic old dusty attic. Boxes, spider webs, it's dark, creaky wood. And there's a circular window across from me at the other end of the room. The same exact circular window that you can see from the front yard where everyone is outside. So I walk over, I look out the window, and I can see everybody down there, but it's like there's a weird filter over it, where it's in like black and white, and they're all skeletons. Everyone's there, moving around like normal, grilling, laughing, playing, but they're skeletons. And as I'm registering this, processing it, the door behind me slams shut, and I turn around, and the creepy old lady is standing behind one of those piles of boxes, looking at me with the most sinister, it was the most evil I've felt in my life. I ran faster than I've ever ran in my entire life. Out of that room, back down the hall. I did not look back a single time. Back out the original door, back down the staircase, and I shut the crawl space door behind me. I grabbed my jacket off of the bed where I had set it before I went up there, and I put it on, walked downstairs and back outside like nothing happened. The next time that I come over to visit my grandparents, about a year later, I have not told my grandma this story. I've not told her anything. I come over, I go to sleep in this room. I'm already a little bit apprehensive about it because of the previous events. I step into the room, and I see that the crawl space is now boarded and nailed shut with blankets over it as well. They boarded that up. And then just recently, a couple years ago, I actually told my grandma about this, and all she does is go, yeah. Goodbye.
Do not listen to this scary story at nighttime or right before you're going to bed. Because I love you so much, I'm giving you this warning because what the fuck? So typically I listen to a lot of Spanish scary stories because I like translating them for you guys. I typically listen to these when my husband's asleep next to me and I'm just like scrolling story through story, right? I will say when I listened to this story, I got full body chills, right? But I was like, okay, cool, I'm saving this. This is gonna be a good ass story, and I just kept going. A lot of the times you guys ask me in my comments like, how do you sleep after reading all these stories? And I'm gonna be honest, I sleep perfectly well. Like typically I'm not scared, and I wasn't scared last night, which is why it's so weird that I had a dream about this fucking story. I guess this story really impacted me more than I thought. So I'm gonna translate the story for you guys, and then I'm gonna tell you the dream that I had at the very end. So there was this girl, she was around 15 or 16 years old, and she lived with her mom. Unfortunately, her mom lost her job and they had no money, so they ended up losing their house as well. So one of the mom's family members tells them that they have a house that they can live in because they didn't want them to be homeless, but unfortunately this house was like away from civilization. This house was in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by like hills and mountains, but since the mom and daughter had nowhere else to go, they accepted the offer and decided to go live in this house. They end up going to the house, and when they get there, they notice the strangest thing ever. Right in front of the door is this big ass tree. Like the tree was so big that when they would try to open the front door, it would be hitting that tree. So the mom thought it was really strange that the tree would be like right in front of the front door. So the people who actually gave him a ride to that house noticed the tree as well, and they told the mom that if she wanted to, they can also help her remove that tree so that it doesn't stop the front door from opening. And she agreed, so they decided to do it then and there. When they removed that tree, on the roots of like where the tree was growing, they see like a skeleton of a baby. The mom says that it looked like maybe someone had buried the baby a very long time ago because the bones of the baby's skeleton were just being eaten by the roots of that tree. She said that they didn't end up telling anybody about it. She just, had the tree removed, they saw that, and they just like moved on with their lives. Time passes, and in this house, it's a 2-bedroom home. It's a little small, but it does have a hallway that leads to both of the rooms. Both the mom and the daughter start hearing noises in the hallway, and they realize that it sounds like a little baby. She even said it doesn't sound like an animal, it didn't sound like a kid. There was no like steps walking. It sounded like a baby playing in the hallway. So the mom almost felt guilty because she felt like something had happened there. I mean, they found the baby bones, and she just felt really bad that maybe the baby ghost was there. So she started leaving out baby toys in the hallway. I already have chills. So after leaving the toys in the hallway, the mom says that they would then start hearing this baby playing with those specific toys that were left out for it. She mentions that nothing scary would happen, but she did feel that over time, the baby's energy was growing and growing. So one day, the mom and daughter get into a really big fight. And I mean, they were screaming at each other, like they were going at it. And the daughter ends up going to her room and like slamming the door. And mom also goes to her room and slams the door. So when the mom goes into her room, slams the door, and sits alone, she realizes that maybe she was a little tough on her daughter. Mom felt so bad and so guilty that she's like, I'm gonna go to her room and I'm gonna, apologize and let's try to talk through it. So the mom goes and she knocks on her daughter's door, and of course the daughter didn't answer because she was pissed. After the daughter not answering her door, the mom still decided to open the door, and she starts off with, look, I really need to talk to you. And then she stays silent. The daughter was laying on her bed and she was like, what? That's when the mom was like, get up and come with me. And the daughter's like, what? And the mom's like, get up and come with me. The daughter's like, I thought you wanted to talk to me. And she goes, shut up, get up and come with me. So once the daughter realizes that something is going on because the mom was really seriously telling her to get up, she gets up. Her mom grabs her by the hand, they leave her bedroom, close her bedroom door, and the mom takes her back to her own room. So the mom explains that when she opened her daughter's door and told her, I need to talk to you, she looks at her daughter that's laying on the bed and she sees a baby on top of her daughter's chest. She says that the baby was not a normal baby. When the mom was telling her daughter, get up and come with me, that baby would hold on to her daughter even tighter, looking at the mom and smiling at her. Oh my god, look at my heart. I think the reason why I imagine these stories in my head, so I'm seeing this shit like a movie in my brain. Can you imagine? She walked in there feeling so guilty that she got into a fight with her mom, tries to talk to her and fucking sees a baby on her daughter's chest as she's telling her, get up and let's go. Baby hugs her daughter tighter while looking at her smiling. They left that house that night and never looked back, didn't go back to investigate, didn't want to know what the fuck happened there, because at that point it wasn't just a little innocent baby ghost, because she saw a baby, but it was not a normal looking baby. Now for my dream. So in my dream, I'm laying in bed. Leave it to me to take naps in my dream too. And next to me is one of my exes, because my dream wasn't scary enough. And in my dream, I'm waking up because I'm feeling something crawling up my body. And when this thing finally gets to the very top, I see a scary looking baby with fucking crazy teeth. And you know how like in your dreams you can't fight, it's like slow motion? Well, as soon as I saw that face, my hand was like trying to push it away. I mean, the baby was like biting my hand, and I was like, what do I do? Because I'm moving so slowly. I was pushing that baby towards my ex, who was still asleep, because what the fuck, take him, not me. But this baby wouldn't give up. It kept trying to come at me, and to the point where I'm slowly moving my fucking head away. It doesn't sound as scary, but like it was fucked up in my dream. Okay, so the baby's still crawling, and once it's like face to face to me, I guess it like I got so spooked that I woke myself up. All it had to do was go to my ex, like, why the fuck would you want me? But no, I got really scared. I woke up and I was like, what the fuck was I dreaming about right now? Anyway, I hope you don't have dreams about this story.
What would happen if you followed a mimic? Now, I've always wondered this, because you hear these stories of someone hearing like their mother knocking at the door or telling them to come in the kitchen. But what would happen if you actually listened to the mimic? Here's a story that might tell you why you should not follow a mimic. There was this young man named Aiden. Now, Aiden lived with his grandfather and his two parents. Now, one day, Aiden was hanging out in his bedroom and he's playing a game. Well, he hears his parents like pull in, and he looks out the window and sees them getting out of the car, unloading some groceries into the house. So he's like, awesome, man, we're gonna have something to eat. So he goes back to his game, and then he hears his mother say, Aiden, come in the kitchen, I got some food. And he, at this time was like in the middle of a battle. So he's like, hold on, Mom, I'll be there shortly. I'm in the middle of a battle. And she goes, come on, Aiden, hurry up. Come in the kitchen. And all of a sudden, he said he got a phone call, and it was from his mom. And he's like, why is she calling me when she's in the kitchen? So he picks it up, and his mom's like, hey, honey, we're at the grocery store. Do you want us to get you anything? And he goes, what do you mean you're at the grocery store? You already got groceries. You're in the kitchen. And she goes, what are you talking about? We just got to the grocery store. And he looks out the window and sees that their car is not there. And then right at this moment, he hears his mom saying, you better get in the kitchen right now or you're going to be in trouble. You better come eat. And he's like, I got to call you back, Mom. He hangs up. So he goes and he locks his door, and then he calls his mom right back. And he's like, look, when you get home, call me. I'll help you bring in the groceries. So about 25, 30 minutes later, his mom calls him. And she's like, honey, we're home. Come outside. And he said he was getting ready to go out of his room, but he looked out his window first, and their car wasn't there. So he's like, you know what? I don't know what to do because I don't know, who really is my mom right now. So as he's sitting in his bedroom, right, he hears his parents come home and come into the house. And all of a sudden, his mom comes up to his door and starts knocking. And she goes, Aiden, let me in. And he's like, not right now, Mom. And she goes, what are you talking about? Let me in. Unlock this door. Why do you have the door locked? And he's like, no, I'm not opening the door. And his mom goes, all right, I'll just get the key and unlock it. So he grabs this baseball bat that's chilling in his room, and he's prepared for this thing to come in. And at the time, he still thinks whatever, was calling his name in the kitchen, this is them. So he sees the handle jiggle and the door open, and it's really his mom. And he can tell that it is actually his real mom. And she goes, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, nothing. And he sets the bat down. And she's like, you're acting weird and stuff. And there's food in the fridge if you're hungry. So he didn't know what to make of that. What did he just experience? And he didn't feel like he could tell his parents about it. So he decided to talk to his grandpa, who was kind of like his best friend at the time. So he goes to his grandpa's room, and he's like, Grandpa, he's like, have you ever seen something you can't explain? And he goes, what do you mean? And he tells the story about how he thought his mom and dad had came home, he's seen their car and everything, but it wasn't actually them. And the grandpa goes, oh no. And he goes, what's wrong, Grandpa? And he says, well, when I was a young boy, I grew up in a small Polish village near Warsaw. And he said, we had this term that was this long Polish word, but it roughly translated into evil twin. And he said they believed there were these evil spirits that could take the form of anyone and would try and trick you and lure you, out into the woods. So his grandpa said, when I was a young boy, my father had me chopping wood outside. And I hear my grandma's voice coming from the forest. And she's saying, come in the woods. I baked you a pie. Come out here. It's nice and warm. You'll like this pie. And he said, he was so hungry, he almost started to go out into the woods until his father ran and grabbed him and said, get back in the house. And his father locked the door and said, if you hear someone calling you from the woods, don't ever go. Don't respond. So he said, when you encounter an evil twin, as they called it, they will follow you for the rest of your life. And he feared that maybe this thing had followed him here to America. And this is what Aiden had seen. A couple weeks later, his parents are gone, and it's just him and his grandpa. And they're watching this World War II documentary in the living room. Well, all of a sudden, the wind picked up, and a strong breeze pushes the back kitchen door open, and they hear it, open up. So his grandpa's like, I'll go and close the door real quick, and I better lock it so it doesn't blow open again. So his grandpa goes into the kitchen, but after about 10, 15 minutes, he doesn't come back. So Aiden's like, Grandpa, are you all right? He goes into the kitchen, the back door's still open, and he doesn't see his grandpa. He goes throughout the house, he's yelling his name, he doesn't see him anywhere. So he goes out, to the back door, and he's yelling his grandpa's name, he doesn't hear it. So he calls up his parents, and his parents come home immediately, and they call the police, and they do this big search throughout the neighborhood and into the woods. And they end up finding his grandfather in the middle of the woods. He is completely naked. He is confused and doesn't know who he is, doesn't know anything, doesn't remember anything. So they bring him back home and everything. Well, Aiden said that, they chalked this up to dementia and said he was diagnosed with like a severe case of dementia. But Aiden, in his mind, suspected, because of the series of events that happened before this and his grandfather going out to the kitchen when the door opened, that this was the evil twin thing that his grandfather had talked about. And he said, although his grandfather had completely lost his memory, from time to time, he would say to Aiden, "Is my brother outside? Is my brother out there?" And he couldn't figure out why, like, his grandfather would keep saying that. And then he realized maybe this thing appeared as his brother, and it lured him, like, into the woods.
Did any of you have this type of like Barbie head that you can style growing up? If you have one, or maybe your kid has one now, yeah, don't listen to this story. So this happened back in the 80s when this lady was a little girl. She was the only girl in the family. She had 2 older brothers. She mentions how her bedroom was right across from her brother's bedroom, so the doors faced each other. Her brothers did share a room while she had her own bedroom. Also, it's important to mention that the bedrooms didn't have doors. What they would do is put curtains where the door should be. I remember having a curtain on my door once, but that was only because my mom took the door. She took the door to my room. Anyway, she played with this doll head so much that every night when she would go to bed, her mom would pick up that doll head and put it on top of her dresser so that she doesn't play with it all night in bed. So there was one night when the younger brother woke everybody up in that household because he was crying uncontrollably. Obviously, the parents were worried. They ran straight to the bedroom, and when they got there, they asked him what was wrong, why is he crying? And he told them that when he was laying in bed trying to go to sleep, he saw when that Barbie head peeked into his bed. Why did I get chills? The Barbie head peeked into his bedroom from the sister's room. He described it almost as if somebody was holding that Barbie head and just inclined it this way. So I guess like literally, I can't even do the motion. I just scared myself. Anyway, he described it as if like somebody had grabbed that head and inclined it this way, so it looked like it was peeking, which obviously is impossible for that doll to do because it would have fallen. It's only like a head. As he's crying, he's like, she was staring at me almost like she knew I was awake, and she peeked into the room. And it was basically impossible for someone to have hidden behind that Barbie to incline her, because again, she was up against that dresser. Even if it was a little sister, she would have been visible from his bedroom. And to no one's surprise, the parents did not believe him. His older brother that also slept in that bedroom did not believe him either. However, with time, that older brother started to believe because some weird shit happened to him as well. So there was one night where the older brother couldn't fall asleep, and something just told him to look towards his little sister's door. He saw the same thing that his brother claimed to have seen, which is that doll head kind of, inclined looking towards the bedroom. But it wasn't just that. It was not just that. He stared back at her because he wanted to make sure, like, is somebody holding her? Is she really moving? Is it me? And when he is staring at this Barbie's head, he said that the Barbie started making faces at him. He described it as like mocking faces, that like sticking her tongue out at him and doing like silly faces. Bro, that would have scared the I wake up, I turn, I look at my Barbie. The Barbie's like, that's the only thing I could think of. What other faces could she have done? What other faces? That would have scared me. That would have been it. Now that I think of it, that bitch has no arms. You have no arms, bitch. I'm gonna fuck you up. Okay, 34-year-old Letty would have fucked her up, but like 12-year-old Letty would have been dying of a heart attack. He also mentions how her mouth would move in like weird angles, almost as if she was trying to say something to him. And by that point, the little brother had also seen those facial expressions that Barbie was making as well. And of course, the older brother went and told his parents. He wanted to tell them that the little brother was not lying. He also saw that doll moving and making facial expressions, and of course, they didn't believe them. On the contrary, they got in trouble for making these things up. They basically told them, you better not come to us and tell us that Barbie's moving again, or you'll be in big trouble. What's the punishment? I get to sleep in the room with you? Okay, bitch, punish me. What's the punishment? You're taking me to sleep in a new home? Take me right now. So the parents didn't believe them until one night where the dad stayed up by himself, and when he was walking down the hallway, he felt as if somebody was behind him. Immediately, he turns around to look, and he could have sworn that he saw something peeking from on top of a dresser. The dad could have sworn that he thought it was that doll head that he saw move. You're a liar, you're making things up, and if you bring this up again, you're gonna be in big trouble, mister. Obviously, it was that moment where it finally scared the dad, where the family decided to get rid of this doll head. So where they lived, the trash people only came on Tuesdays and Saturdays, so they had left the trash and that doll head out there, and it wasn't trash day, so it was just gonna sit out there until the trash came. So while the doll was still outside in the trash, their grandmother came for a visit, and as she was passing by the trash, she saw this like perfectly clean and new doll head on top of the trash can. She pulled it out and asked them why they were gonna throw it away, and her son, the dad, didn't want to tell her why, so he just said it was because the daughter didn't want to play with the doll anymore. So the grandmother decided that she was gonna take it to her home because she had this bedroom that she called the old doll room, and she basically had a whole collection of dolls. She cleaned that doll head up and put it inside of that room. And surprise, surprise, after she put that doll head into that bedroom, weird sounds would start coming from that room. The lady that's telling us the story, obviously that was her doll, and she said that she personally never heard any noise in her grandmother's room where that doll was, but her grandmother and her aunt did hear noises coming from there. She explains that her cousins would also say that they would hear weird sounds coming from that room. They would spend the night at the grandmother's home, and while they were sleeping, they could almost hear like plastic bumping into things in that room. However, they were already scared of that room altogether since there's like old dolls all in there, and they did not dare to go in there and figure out what that noise was. With time, the mom of the girl was like, I cannot not tell them why we got rid of that doll. So she did end up telling the grandmother and the aunt why they got rid of the doll, and obviously they were like, oh my god, so it has to be that doll that's making those noises in that room. However, the grandmother decided not to get rid of that doll. She obviously did believe in the paranormal, but she was not about to be scared of it, so she decided that she was going to keep it in her house so that no one else has to deal with this doll. By the way, the grandmother lived by herself in that house, so yeah, that lady was not scared of the doll. That doll ended up staying with her until her final days, and the grandmother passed away. So grandmother passed away and left that house to her aunt, and her aunt, first day, took all of the grandmother's collection, including that doll head, and basically got rid of everything. She says that the aunt never told anybody what she did with it. They have not seen that doll head ever since. Yeah, that is a crazy fucking story. I feel like I would die if I were to see that Barbie head just like blah, making crazy ass faces at me. But what do you guys think?
We're gonna call this one The Neighbor from Hell. I am back with another spooky story. So there was once this woman by the name of Mariah. She was happily married with 2 kids, a boy at the age of 7 and a girl at the age of 16. They lived a very happy and comfortable life until their new neighbor named Abby moved in. Abby was a single woman who seemed very kind, soon became very good friends with Mariah. They would often go to each other's houses for lunch and have chats. But one day, Abby baked some cupcakes for Mariah. Since this was normal at this point, Mariah was eager to try one of Abby's cupcakes. So they sat, had their chats per usual. However, after a couple of minutes after eating these cupcakes, Mariah started to feel very sick. Mariah starts feeling dizzy, and eventually she collapsed. And it turns out, just like that, Mariah passes away. Abby calls the ambulance, then calls Mariah's husband. She tells Mariah's husband that she got to Mariah's house and found Mariah already passed out. And there was no sort of suspicion from the husband, as he knew that Mariah and Abby were great friends. So some time goes by and Mariah's funeral is long past. Abby began to check on Mariah's husband frequently, and sooner and later they became a couple. It had only been a few months since Mariah's death, and she had really seemed to care about the husband and kids. Mariah's son was very welcoming of Abby. However, the daughter was not. It felt as if Abby was trying to replace her mother, and she was not there for that. She wasn't having it. Mind you, at that point, Abby started coming to the house a lot. She still had her home next door, but she would come over often to cook for the husband and kids. One day, Abby cooked a meal for dinner for the husband and the kids, and after one bite of the food, the husband was shocked. He instantly recognized that that was his late wife's secret recipe. And Abby just told him that his wife did share the recipe with her once while she was alive. Nobody thought too much about it and just ate the food. Now, during the dinner, the daughter was having an attitude the whole time. It got to a point where she stormed out of the table and went to her room. But before she went, she didn't leave without a bang, as she had some very nasty and disrespectful things to say to Abby. Dinner ended and Abby went back home as usual. The next day, the daughter felt a bit apologetic about some of the things that she said. She decided that after school, she's just gonna go to Abby's and apologize. After school, she got to Abby's house and knocks on the door and no one answers. She knocks a few times, nobody's answering. So she decides to let herself in. So she walks in, she calls out for Abby, no one's answering. She walks towards the kitchen, and when she got to the kitchen, she saw her mother, Mariah. She could not believe her eyes. Her mom was standing there in the kitchen like a zombie. As she called out to her mom did not answer. Mind you, she was wearing the same clothes from the day that she died. And the scary part, was that she had a nail, the kind of nail used for wooden appliances, hammered into her forehead, and somehow she was still alive. So the daughter runs home, and since her dad was home, she called him and told him what she saw. But the dad, of course, does not believe her, so she's like, okay, come with me and I'll just show you. So he followed her to Abby's house, and they went inside, and he saw the exact same thing. He saw his wife, and he was in disbelief. He tried calling her and shaking her, but she was in a zombie-like state. He took his daughter and hurried home and told her, get in the car with your brother. They left and he took the kids to the grandparents' house, which was only about 10 to 15 minutes away. He came back home, went to Abby's house and blew a whistle. So basically, most communities in South Africa encourage households to have whistles so that they can blow if there's trouble, so that the community can hear it and they can come. So he blew the whistle as loud as he could, and people in the community heard it and came running, thinking that somebody's getting robbed, something horrible is happening. As the members of the community came, they saw Mariah. They were surprised. And in the midst of all the commotion, Abby came running in because she too heard the whistle. She came running thinking that maybe somebody broke into her property. And pretty much that was how she was caught by the community. Wow. That was yet another submission from South Africa, if you didn't guess already. You guys win the spooky stories, because them shits be like movies. Wait, if you're not already, make sure you follow me on Instagram, just so that I know that it's real. I'm trying to get to 10K. Please. And make sure you follow me on YouTube for longer, better, and spookier stories. A lot of y'all were bullying me for story times. I was fucking sick. Anyway, I love you, my abducted humans, from your favorite Haitian homegirl.
A lot of people wonder why they say in the Appalachians not to go into the woods at night, not to whistle, not to sing, and always make sure you close your windows and you lock your doors, and absolutely never respond to anything that calls your name. So this goes back to an old Native American belief in the area that these mountains were home to spirits and that they would come out and wander during the night. And I've heard two stories that will give you an idea as to why you should not do these things at night. So there was a man named Jeff. He lived outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. And he was told about this spot up in the mountains where there was some good mushrooms. But no one would go to this area because they were very superstitious. So Jeff thinks, I'm going to go to this area and get a good haul. And, you know, what do I care? There's no such thing as ghost. So he goes out, he parks his car, he goes into the woods, and he's hunting for several hours. He starts to notice the sun is going down, it's getting dark, it's time to head back to his vehicle. Now as he's walking through the woods, he all of a sudden hears, Jeff, Jeff, come here, come Jeff, and he hears his name being called. So Jeff knows from legend that if you hear something calling your name, you do not respond. So he just keeps on walking, and all of a sudden he hears this louder and louder, his name being called. And then he starts hearing screaming coming from deep in the woods, and he hears laughter, and he hears what sounds like people just talking all around him. So he starts walking faster and faster, and he knows the way he came in, but for some reason it feels like the trees are almost moving, and he is going in the wrong direction now. And finally he comes out sort of to this open area, and he sees a man standing out in this field, but he's turned around looking in the opposite direction. So Jeff goes up and approaches this guy and says, excuse me, sir, do you know the route back to the highway? And when this man turns around, Jeff realizes that it's himself, and he's all bloody and bruised, and he's just staring back at him. So Jeff runs as fast as he can for several miles, gets in his car, and drives back home. Later that night, he's awoken to hearing voices inside his room calling out to him, "Jeff, come back, come." And so Jeff never went back into the woods again, mushroom hunting. And the second story I've heard is there was a couple who decided they were going to live in the Appalachian Mountains for a summer. They find this cabin for rent, and they're surprised at how cheap the price is for 6 months. So they rent this cabin, and they go out there, and they bring all their stuff to move in. And this guy in a truck, he meets them out there, and he's very nervous. And he tells them, hey, at night, you're going to want to lock your doors and close the blinds. And then he gets in his truck, and he leaves as fast as he can. So this couple is just in awe of how nice this log cabin is and the fact that they got it for almost, this huge steal. So that night they go into their cabin, they make themselves comfortable. It gets dark. And all of a sudden they hear a thump, thump, thump up on the roof. And it sounds like something or someone is walking across the roof. And then they hear banging on the side of the house, and they hear these large booms and creaks and sounds coming all around them from outside. It sounds almost like their house is being invaded. Eventually, the sound dies down and daylight comes. The next day, same thing happens, and for several weeks this goes on. So finally, the husband is fed up, and he says, you know what, I'm done. We're taking our home back. We're tired of being harassed. So in the middle of the night, when this sounds start happening again, he goes to the window, he opens the curtains, and then he looks out the window, and standing out behind the window is a woman, and she has this pale, long face and white, gray hair going over her shoulders. And he notices she has solid white eyes, and she's just staring at him. And then she points directly at him, and that's when all hell breaks loose. He starts hearing banging on the roof, banging on the sides of the house. The house feels like almost like an earthquake is happening. And then he shuts the blinds. They run into the bathroom, and they hide for the rest of the night. The next day, they decide, we're through with this, and they leave, never to return again.
Y'all, I've told y'all some stories before, but this one, oh my God. You know what? I'm gonna make this one part. I'm just gonna have to hear this. So there's this girl, and she told me this story from when she used to live in Haiti when she was younger. Her dad was in the US, but she used to live with her mom and her siblings in Haiti. And they had this neighbor, this lady, and she called her auntie because her and her mom were like really close. Like if she wanted to, she can sleep over her house to play with her kids. Like they were that close. And so one day she went over to their house to sleep over at her auntie's house. And, she went over there, she was playing with her kids and everything. And then it was time for bed. And they were watching TV, waiting for themselves to fall asleep. And all of the other kids fell asleep except for her. Like, she couldn't sleep. And so she was just there watching TV. And at one point, she got thirsty. And at this point, she's thinking everybody is sleeping. So she goes to get her some water. And so she can go back to the living room. And since it was a sleepover, yes, they were sleeping in the living room. I used to do that too. We would all lay on the floor. It's so much more fun than you think. And so I don't know if you guys know, some of you guys may know, but the water is like the little packets of water. It's like a little plastic bag of water. So she goes to the kitchen, she goes to the cooler, she gets the water. And as she's about to go to the living room, she notices somebody standing in the doorway of her aunt's room. And she wasn't going to really pay any mind to it because it's probably just her auntie. But it was just the way like the person was standing there. Eyes open, not blinking, staring into one corner of the house. And so she's like, hey, auntie, I thought you were sleeping. And she didn't respond. So she's like, auntie, are you okay? And at this point, she starts to be spooked out. And so she's like, you know what? She's a Haitian girl that grew up in Haiti. She knows better. She's like, I'm not going to question anything. I'm just going to go back. And if anything, my house is right next door and I will go home. And as she's about to walk away, she hears this. Yo pral vini, di maman papa yap vini. Yo pral vini, di maman papa yap vini. Which translate to, they're coming. Tell your mom and dad that they're coming. Out of nowhere, she starts hearing drums to go along with what she's singing. She doesn't know where the drums are coming from. She just hears drums that's going along with her singing. And at this point, she's scared. Yeah, she's terrified. And before she knew it, she starts dancing. I mean like dancing. Like the whole yo pral vini, di mama papa ya vini. And she's like all over the kitchen, dancing. So she runs to wake up the kids. She wakes up the kids. She's like, oh my God, something is happening to your mom. I don't know what's happening. Something's happening. And so the kids get up and they see their mom in the kitchen and they didn't even budge. They were just like, oh, that's just Giddy. And they tell her, oh, that's just the Loa that possesses her sometimes. The Loa that she serves, she'll be fine. Let's just go back to bed. She's like, what do you mean? Do you not hear the drums? And they're like, yeah, I just told you that's the Loa. So you just gotta ignore it. Let her do what she does and it'll be over sooner than later. And she's like, actually, I think I'm gonna go home. The kids are like, oh my gosh, stop being such a scaredy cat. She's not gonna do anything to you. Let's just go back to sleep. And they leave and they go back to sleep. Except she couldn't go back to sleep after that. Especially while the drums are still going. She is still dancing. And she goes to the kitchen. And y'all, at this point, their mom is naked. Like completely naked. Like birthday suit naked. Dancing, singing. And at this point, she really wants to go home. But she wants to call her mom. But she doesn't have a phone. But her auntie has a phone. But she can't use her auntie's phone because her auntie currently is possessed by a Loa. And she is not allowed to go outside by herself, even if it's to go next door. It's nighttime. It's Haiti. Like, she knows better. The kids aren't listening to her. The kids are just like, it's normal. This is normal. Y'all, at this point, she's screaming, dancing. And y'all know what she does? She goes in the kitchen. She gets the hot sauce. And if you know, it ain't no little hot sauce you get from the corner store. This is Haitian made hot sauce that the peppers has been in that vinegar with the seasonings for months, probably. She gets the hot sauce. She sits on the floor. Mind you, she's butt naked. She opens her leg and she starts to pour the hot sauce on her vagina. Now, I have heard stories before when people catch Loa, they catch Gede, and they do that. Like, I've heard stories. My grandma has told me stories. I never actually saw it for myself with my own eyes. But when the girl told me that, I was like, oh my God, you experienced that? Like, I've heard stories, but I've never actually experienced it. This lady is pouring pure hot sauce on and in her vagina, y'all. And she doesn't feel a thing. She goes right back up to dancing like it was usual. And at this point, she said, fuck this, I'm going home. And so that's exactly what she did. She ran outside, she went next door, she was knocking on her barrière, which means her gate. And it took a while because there's the gate and then there's the actual house and the front door to the house. Her dad heard her knocking on the thing. He came out, opened the gate for her. She's terrified. She's crying. She's in tears at this point. And her dad is like, what happened? And she explained to her dad, like, what was happening. And her dad is like, oh, okay, well, let's just go to bed. We'll take care of this tomorrow. Come to find out, y'all, she does this all the time, for real, like the kid said. Even with the whole pouring the hot sauce on her vagina, she does this all the time. And she does not feel it after she does it, but she does feel it when the Loa leaves. When it's just her, she feels that burn. That infection came. But at the same time, it's not her that was doing it. She pays for the price afterwards. Sometimes she'll even go to the hospital because of how bad it gets. And for some reason, she wasn't allowed to go over there anymore. Every time she would ask questions, like to her parents would never give her an explanation. But they were still close, like they still spoke and everything. Their parents still spoke. She just wasn't allowed to go over there anymore. So I'm assuming she wasn't supposed to see that. And her parents knew dang well what that lady was up to and what she was doing. But yeah, y'all, oh my God. Like, I've heard stories about this before, but when she told me that, I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, there's people out there pouring hot sauce in their vagina. If you like this story and you have your own crazy ass story that you want me to tell, go on my Instagram, make sure you're following me, send me the story as a voice message, and don't forget to click the link in the bio and get my merch. And of course, thank you to the ones that already ordered. I love you guys' support. I'm gonna have better merch coming soon, but I just wanted to see how you guys do with this one first before I start giving y'all the good stuff.